Hi everyone, I'm San, and you're listening to San's podcast. Today's topic that I want to share with you is living away from home. I'm sure many of you, like me, started living away from home when you went to university. Some even left home earlier due to circumstances, dreams, passions, future plans, or many other reasons that force us to leave our families. My parents got married and gave birth to me in the Russian Federation. When I was just a few months old, we moved back to Vietnam. I grew up in my hometown, Ha Tin, for 18 years, studying and maturing in that land. It's a place where people are incredibly resilient, but nature itself is very harsh, freezing cold winters and scorching hot summers. Back then, our house didn't have air conditioning. It wasn't until I had been in college for a few years that my family could afford one. Only very wealthy families had AC back then. Not to mention, in the summer, we relied mainly on hydropower. When water levels were low, there wasn't enough electricity for everyone, so we had rotating power cuts. Those days were truly, truly dreadful. June and July were intensely hot summer months, compounded by the Lao wind. Everything combined to create an incredibly brutal climate, and then, on top of that, we'd lose power. During those times, instead of sleeping on our beds, my mother, siblings, and I would lie on the cool tile floor. At least the ground offered some coolness. Our house had ceramic tiles. Winters were bone-chillingly cold, piercing to the skin, just excruciating because of the high humidity and the cold wind always accompanied by rain, thunder, and dark skies. I remember going to school at 6 or 6:30 in the morning. It was absolutely horrific. I don't know if I'm exaggerating, but I genuinely feel for the people living in central Vietnam. But perhaps because we grew up under such conditions, we got used to it. I don't know how I managed to study so diligently in such harsh circumstances back then. Honestly, with those extreme conditions and the lack of amenities, back in the day, we had no idea what movie projectors, cinemas, or shopping malls were. All we had were games that girls played together, like O and Quan, a traditional Vietnamese board game, or jump rope, or writing diaries. If there was an extra joy, it was buying pirated CDs to listen to music. Even then, we knew about Korean music, but a pirated CD only cost 5,000 VND. But those were our simple, scarce joys in a very harsh life. I lived 18 years in central Vietnam, 4 years in the north, and 4 years in the south. In each different environment, I experienced so many things. Living away from home has given me a lot of life experience and changed me profoundly. Nowadays, I know many of you have received your university entrance exam results. Perhaps you already know that you're about to live away from home, right? We'll be moving to a new environment, a new city, and studying at a school we've always wished for. Or perhaps you haven't achieved the results you hoped for, and you're feeling a lot of pressure and anxiety. But don't worry, everyone. We always have other opportunities. Maybe we'll retake an upcoming exam next year or decide to pursue vocational training. Either way, one day, when a child becomes an adult, most of us will have to live away from home. And I truly hope you can find your own path. Even though it might be difficult at first, take heart, trust yourself, and give yourself another chance to try and experience new things, because we're still young, aren't we? When I found out I got into university, I was happy, but also a bit nervous, a little scared, and very excited. Because as teenagers, we inherently crave freedom. We want to soar, as if we've been cooped up inside for too long, controlled too much, right? So we desperately want to step out quickly and live independently. That was my feeling at the time. Most of my friends went to study in Hanoi, and I did too. I enrolled at the banking academy. I remember my first days of enrollment, I went alone. The reason was that my mother had a small accident before that and couldn't come with me. Going to Hanoi by myself, I felt a bit scared and a little sorry for myself, but it was okay. After all, I'm a pretty strong girl. Plus, I had a cousin who took me to enroll. When I first arrived in Hanoi, I truly felt like a country bumpkin in the big city because everything was so new. Where I came from, we didn't have such huge buildings, goodness gracious. I probably looked a bit naive, but that was my genuine feeling when I first came to Hanoi. After that, I started my student life with a few acquaintances, sisters from the same hometown, living together. I also had a close group of friends in university, 4 of us, 2 boys and 2 girls, and we made so many memories. In the university environment, I also joined various clubs, so I made more friends, had more older siblings, seniors, and even had a small crush on a Hanoi boy. When I was away from home, everything was exactly as I wished. I had the freedom to do what I liked. I could wake up whenever I wanted, go to sleep whenever I wanted. I could meet up and date, join club events, hang out with friends, go on road trips, so many things. It truly felt like the life I had always longed for. In my first few years away from home, I didn't go back very often, and each visit was only for a few days. It wasn't because I was busy partying, but simply because I was working. When you start living away from home, there are quite a lot of expenses you have to face. Back then, my mom was still sending me money, as I wasn't strong enough to bear all the costs of tuition, housing, and other expenses myself. If I wanted more, I had to find a part-time job to earn money. I definitely wouldn't ask my mom for more. My parents were raising 3 children, so they didn't have a lot of extra money. I realized that if I wanted more, I had to work part-time to earn and save money. And my first lesson about living away from home was that freedom comes with independence and responsibility for your own life. That was also the first time I understood the importance of money. Perhaps when you start living away from home, you'll truly understand how difficult things were for your parents before, how meticulously they had to budget every single thing to raise you. When I lived in Hanoi, the weather was truly mild. At least compared to my hometown, it was much gentler, especially the beautiful autumn. I thought that when I started living away from home, I would have to mentally prepare myself to take care of everything on my own. Of course, I had friends living with me, but my mom certainly wouldn't be there. So I had to take good care of myself. But even so, there were moments of profound loneliness and isolation when all I wanted was to run home to my mom and cry. There were times I just wanted to be home, for my mom to cook for me, even if it meant listening to her nagging. It would still be infinitely better than feeling alone and lonely like that. And I'm sure that when you start living away from home, you might experience that same loneliness, but thanks to it, we learn the true value of family. Sometimes siblings argue and fight, parents scold their children, but ultimately, family is always the place that loves and comforts us. Back then, I worked so much, everyone. I was always doing part-time jobs because I wanted to save up and eventually buy myself a laptop. My family wasn't wealthy, but not overly poor either. We just had enough to live on without much extra. And I had been used to being frugal since I was little. When I was small, my family didn't have much money to buy me milk, so even now, I'm not a big snack eater, simply because we didn't have money for snacks when I was a child. Eating fruits and such was something I had to learn later, because back then, 3 meals a day was already a lot for us. Once I started working and earning money, I became even more fascinated by it. I believed that money would help me a lot in life, and it's true that when you don't have money, you have to try much harder to gain more freedom in your decisions. For example, if I had money in hand, I could buy things I liked, books I wanted to read, go out to eat with friends, buy a dress I thought was beautiful, or go home whenever I wanted. If I didn't have money, it would be much, much harder. For me, living away from home also meant growing up by earning money, becoming independent, and that was the biggest challenge I had to face. I remember one Tet holiday, I think it was Tet 2017, I only came home for exactly 3 days, the 30th, 1st, and 2nd of the Lunar New Year. By the evening of the 2nd, I was already heading back to Hanoi for work. That's because the holiday pay was 4 times the normal rate, and of course, I had to go. At that point, I was truly obsessed with money. I needed money, you guys. I didn't have any, so I was incredibly drawn to it. On the evening of the 2nd Tet, as I left my family and got on the bus from Ha Tin to Hanoi, I cried. I cried so much, but no one knew about it. I felt a little sorry for myself, you know? Being a young girl all alone, why did I choose this? Why didn't I choose something easier? Just stay home with mom, celebrate Tet, and go up later. But on second thought, I didn't want to miss any opportunity to significantly increase my income. Just a few days of work during Tet was equivalent to several weeks of regular pay. Another part of it was that when I left early, it wouldn't be as crowded as when everyone else was heading back from their hometowns. That's how I tried to comfort myself, but deep down, I genuinely felt so lonely and sad. But I figured I just had to endure it, because if I wanted to improve my life, I had to be diligent. I always told myself that. I didn't want to be dependent or have to ask anyone for anything. I wanted to be able to work hard and decide my own path, how I would strive in the future. And it's okay. I might celebrate Ted a little less with my family, but later, if I can have a better life, then my family can also have a better life, and I'll have more chances to go home whenever I want. And at this point, I have achieved that. A turning point in my life was when I decided to move to Saigon, Ho Chi Minh City, to live and work. Why was it a turning point? Because until then, I had never thought I would live in Saigon. For me, moving to Hanoi was already very far from my family. Every time I went home, it would take 5 hours by car, and a ticket costing about 200,000 VND would get me home, plus another 200,000 VND to return to Hanoi. It wasn't a huge cost, right? But if I decided to move to Saigon, each trip home would cost around 2 million VND, and a round trip would be 3 to 4 million. At that time, my fresh graduate salary was only about 7 to 8 million VND. How could I manage that? It was so difficult. Another factor was that I didn't have many relatives there. I didn't have anyone familiar in Saigon, just a few friends. But I still decided to leave, and I knew that Hanoi wasn't for me anymore at that time. I don't know why, but right after graduation, even though I had a job, my friends were all scattered, and I had just gone through a breakup. Objectively speaking about my job, I was working in marketing, doing PR for a company, and I realized that the environment in Ho Chi Minh City would benefit me much more because advertising and media were developing very rapidly there. If I went there, I would have more opportunities to develop my abilities, because I knew I was a capable person. And I thought, this is when I need to go. I have to go now, there's no more suitable time than this. Immediately after making the decision, I spent about a month at home with my mom, and then once again, I packed my suitcase and flew to Saigon alone. If I were to share with you all about living in Saigon, I would probably make a separate podcast to delve deeper into how I developed and the journeys I've taken, because one podcast on this topic wouldn't be enough. But by now, I am no longer that scared and self-pitying girl I used to be. I've been away from home for 8 years. Currently, I am more independent and self-sufficient in my life. Now, I can go home whenever I want without the barrier of money. But of course, there's the barrier of the pandemic, right? Right now, even though I really want to go home, I obviously have to comply with government regulations and work together to overcome this pandemic. After this, I can go home, and that's okay. I just hope everyone stays healthy. During this time, because I'm living away from home, people are quite worried about me folks back home. My older siblings, aunts and uncles, and my friends in Hanoi too, text and call me a lot to check in. And I truly feel so grateful for that. Sometimes, precisely because we live far apart, we care about each other even more. Because we're not physically present with each other, we don't know if the other person is okay. The pandemic situation makes everyone even more worried. Every time I receive a message or a call from people, I feel so happy. So, even though I live far from home, I don't feel lonely at all. I know that we humans have many ways to care for each other, not just by being right next to each other. Throughout 8 years of living away from home, I've experienced loneliness, isolation, fear, and scarcity. The feeling of eating dinner at a convenience store, coming home from work in the rain, celebrating my birthday alone on the staircase, feeling sad and very lonely. But these are precisely the things that have made me much stronger and shaped me into who I am today. A 26-year-old woman who is strong, independent, and has faith in herself. I remember before, I used to lose a lot of faith in life. When I was most lonely, I thought no one cared about me. But gradually, after going through so many things, I also learned to understand the people around me better. Living away from home made me understand family love more deeply. I appreciate my family more, love them more, and realize how much my parents sacrificed for me, especially my mother. She single-handedly took care of 3 children growing up while my father was away earning money. I am incredibly grateful for that. And I remember in 2019, I broke my leg, you guys. I'm a bit clumsy. I fell and broke my leg, but it was just me falling on my own. No one hit me or anything, just a self-inflicted fall. And my mom immediately had to come to take care of me. I'm truly, profoundly grateful for that. And if there's one thing that isn't very convenient when living away from home, it's moments like these. In such difficult times, loved ones can't always be right by your side. And sometimes, it was quite hard on my mom, having to travel a long distance and then care for me at home. 8 years of living away from home helped me immensely, both mentally and in learning to take care of myself. Gradually, I learned how to be self-reliant. Growing up, our families often protect us a lot. I'm the only girl in my family and the youngest child, so I was likely spoiled, right? But now, I'm able to do everything myself. Cook, wash dishes, clean the house, and take care of myself whenever I'm sick. Of course, when I entered a new environment, I also had friends who cared for me during difficult times, and I'm incredibly grateful for that. Like for my recent birthday, my best friend made me a cake, and I'm so thankful for it. I'm grateful to everyone who is still by my side, or not physically present, but still watching over and caring for me until now. In reality, eventually, we all have to leave home, don't we? We have to live away from home to experience and truly understand what an independent life is like without parents, without family. If it's just us, who will we be and what will we do? All of us will go through that period. It will be very difficult, but it forges us greatly. There were many differences living in Ha Tin, Hanoi, and Saigon because these are 3 regions of the country. If I grew up as a sharp-edged girl, gradually, when I moved to Hanoi, I became a little more refined, and when I came to Saigon, I became a little more gentle and serene. I feel that each environment I encountered helped me to mature so much more. And I feel that if I hadn't lived away from home, if I had always stayed in the embrace of my parents, I probably would never have become the person I am today. Everything I've been through, no matter how bad it was, has transformed me into a much better version of myself. And a message I want to send to all of you, girls and boys, who are about to leave your families to start a new life. Hold on to that excitement and don't be afraid of loneliness. Although I know you will face these things, all of it will help you grow. What we should do is learn how to take care of ourselves in difficult times. When we're sick, learn how to connect with people around us, share, and love everyone more. Look at the scenery of the places you're about to live. Try the delicious food there. Back then, there was an incredibly delicious dish right outside the banking academy gate, and even now, I absolutely love it. Every time I return to Hanoi, I want to go there to eat it. It's the mixed glass noodles with goose. You can only eat it if you arrive early. They sell it from about 5 p.m. to 11 p.m., but it's usually sold out by around 6 to 8 p.m. I wonder if they still sell it there. If you know, please leave me a comment so I know if the mixed goose noodles at the banking academy gate are still sold. I hope you all have wonderful experiences when living away from home. There are so many exciting things waiting for you in the future. A life of freedom also means we have to be independent and have self-discipline so we don't become too lax, so we can still develop with our own abilities and follow the future path we set for ourselves. Perhaps we are very confused about this life, but just keep going and you'll get there. It's okay. Right now, there are also many of you living away from home, just like me. You might be in a different province in Vietnam, or you might be abroad in the US, Russia, Korea, China, Japan, Malaysia, Singapore, the Philippines, Europe, so many different places. Perhaps you're missing your family very much right now. You want to go home, you want this pandemic to end quickly so you can be with your family. I understand that, and I'm confident that everything will be okay, and we will have time to reunite with the people we love. During this time, let's connect through social media, through FaceTime calls, and I just want to tell you that you are not alone. I'm here. I'm also a child living away from home, struggling to make a living, to develop, and to pursue my life and my passions. You are not alone. Thank you all for listening to today's podcast with San. Don't forget to connect with San via YouTube, Instagram, and Toss Nguyen. Please follow this podcast channel so you can get notifications when new podcasts are released. Goodbye and see you in the next podcast.